Hello, folks, and hope you're all well. All right, so again, took this guitar in on a trade, and from a distance, yes, this very much does kind of look its part to be a Zach Wild Bullseye Les Paul Custom. And I'll just kind of show that's the truss rod cover, which is a really kind of thin. It is actually metal. So it's the first thing I've done to this. Is taking that cover off. But anyways, this is supposedly a recently manufactured / produced Chibson. And again, harping back to again good old Steve from Boston where he got his start. Was seeing how good these instruments are or what they were claimed. And I will say, after the previous sound sample I uploaded just a few minutes ago to the channel, basically you get what you paid for. Again, when we talk about counterfeit instruments, at the end of the day, companies like Harley Benton and Donner and whatnot else will sell you a cheap instrument that might look similar to a certain major brand name, but at least the biggest advantage you have with those is that they come warranted. Besides their cheap price point, you're also getting a warranty behind them so that if there is an issue with it, you can get your money back or get the item replaced. You can't do that with these Chibson / replica knockoff instruments. And, that's something that everyone should be aware of. And I will state right now, definitely don't look to buy these instruments for, the purpose of, pretending to be a Gibson or a Fender or an Ibanez or whatever, as the terms are called. Chibsons, Chenders, Chibanezes, and so forth and so forth, depending on the model you buy from prospective seller out of the Asian continent that sells them. So anyways, getting back to this. So if you've watched the previous video with the sound samples, you will clearly hear that the EMGs that are in here are not EMGs at all. I have opened up the back of the cavities, which I will do again in this video, and there is no 9-volt plug-in for these pickups. So I'm venturing to guess that these are rebadged pickups that are of whatever make or name. And another thing too that we hear is in those sound samples is an extremely bad grounding issue. Not so much when they're clean, but as soon as you apply gain to these pickups, they just squeal and squawk like they're not shielded or not grounded properly. And from what I could see on the inside, doesn't look like it's not grounded properly. But again, I could be wrong. So first things first, I'm going to show you some of the issues that you can tell with a quote-unquote Chibson guitar not being real. So, on the surface, this thing actually has a very close to Gibson body configuration. Neck-wise, it is very much a nice, thick baseball bat neck made out of maple, as is on the Zakk Wylde model. And as you can see here on the badging, there is the Gibson Custom Shop emblem. There is the Zakk Wylde logo. There is the Made in the USA up above there. But there is your first sign of it not being a Zakk Wylde. Look at that serial number. There is no starting ZW on the serial number. All Zakk Wyldes will start with a serial number that says ZW, then followed by the numbers. So first off, that makes this definitely not a Zakk Wylde custom in the truest sense. Let's take a look at another thing which I haven't looked at yet, and let's see if we can see the truss rod. We look to have a standard non-Gibson truss rod, I believe. Because that is a hex bolt in there, and not a actual hex nut like the Gibsons use. So there's a first issue. There's another issue here. We can see that this has been reworked and whatnot. So I'm going to actually move to my previous Logitech webcam here so we can kind of take a closer look at things. So I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to further explain some things that are an issue with this instrument. Now, I will say the instrument itself is playable. That is true with it. But beyond that, it definitely has issues. And it's a good thing that I got this as a throw-in, because at the same time, I wanted to actually see how good or bad they were. And my plan for this is actually to modify it. So it's going to be modified at some point in time in the near future. I've actually already, in the sound demo video, I actually did ask you folks if you want to see me put a legitimate set of 8185 EMGs back into here, or if we want to go the slightly cheaper route and go with a set of Alnico 5 humbuckers. And I will be looking to probably do that in the next few days, possibly order the pickups in question. So let's now go to the overall issues with the guitar. So first off, the first thing I see here, since removing the truss rod cover and taking a closer look, this has definitely been mucked around pretty good. And I'm now going to switch over again to, like I said, the Logitech webcam, and you'll have to excuse me if my hand is shaky. I've had some coffee today, which most normal people do. So here comes webcam 2 to take up most of the screen. And actually, let's actually move it out a little bit more here. So we'll just double screen it. Say hello to my tummy. So first off, as you can probably see here, we have an issue with a previous nut cover was installed here. And as we see 2 holes here. There's 2 holes there. The truss rod itself has a little bit of a ledging here. And again, lastly, that is a hex nut. That's not a regular nut. That's a hex. It's not a hex bolt. It's a hex nut. Furthermore, we see here that the bottom of the truss rod cover, the place where it's held in place, is actually broken off. And as I discovered when uninstalling it, this long screw was actually put in its place down into here. Or sorry, down into there through. So, yeah. Again, as some of you may well know, I do some, on the hobby repair stuff. So that's kind of one issue. The Gibson logo and such is kind of okay done, which, again, here nor there is an issue. Another issue we see here is there is a lot of excess sealer or whatnot there, and separating that there. So let's turn it over and look at the back of the headstock. So obviously, again, like I said, issue number 1, this is very solidly done. Another thing too, if we put the webcam here and let it focus, the stinger is actually off center. The Gibson Custom Shop logo seems legitimate. The Zach Wild icon is legitimate. Again, serial number is not proper. It's missing ZW here. The tuners appear to be functional. Don't know if they're actually true knockoff Grovers or just a cheaper version. The only one tuner that seems to be out of whack is this one here in its installation, which, of note, Gibson does themselves. So China's keeping up with that, at least, or the people who are doing it. So again, another thing I'll comment about the neck. It's a nice urethane finish. It's a nice, thick, chunky baseball style neck. I'm normally not a big kind of fan of the necks per se, the thicker necks, but I actually do kind of tend to actually like the thicker necks. I sometimes find I get hand cramps with a thinner neck, so this is that kind of baseball bat thick kind of neck. So in that regard, it's accurate. again, the point of the stinger being off. The paint is all off there, whereas here it's uniform. The neck itself doesn't seem to be an issue. Looks like it might be two-piece with a little teeny weeny chunk there, you can see. And I'll put the webcam down here. Here's where you start to see that this is a not great knockoff, or a badly finished one. All this gap here along the neck pocket, and the same occurs over along in this area as well too of the heel. You see the edges are very, very uneven, which some will argue is very Gibson-esque. But that's here nor there. Another thing you'll see, there's a little paint there. And we'll just turn it back over for the time being and show the tail end, or the bottom of the guitar. So another thing as well too, look at the line here, very badly taped off. Anyone who will have bought this guitar and actually paid cash for it, I actually think is really getting ripped off. The pickups themselves seem to be well seated and properly seated. There doesn't seem to be an issue there. Again, when we talk about the finish of this guitar, if I run my finger from here and I run it across to the bottom, actually you feel a hump here, almost like as if it had a sealer or something put on it before the inlay was put on, and like that it was painted over top of another finish or something. So there's a ridge, there's a feelable ridge there that's noticeable. So another issue. Another issue as well, this bridge seems to have some looseness to it, and I'm not sure how well that is getting picked up, but over on this side there's a lot of blingy kind of sound. The actual installation of the bridge and stop tail piece seemed to be fine. The actual fretboard itself, while it is not ebony, it is actually rosewood and appears to be fine. Frets seem to be okay, though I do not think they're jumbo frets as they should be, as what the signature model is. Knobs are the same. The speed kind of knobs that you normally would buy from any other kind of like aftermarket. Nothing special. Here's some more issues that you get with this. Again, like I mentioned about the painting. issue with the painting. For example, little flecks of overpaint or white overspray come through. You can see it there when I have it on an angle. All the way through here, all the way through there. There's white flecks. Also, another example here. Along the binding edge, you see a clear kind of gap around parts, like it was masked off and then painted over top of. We see this fairly prominent over here, like there. Again, another issue there with paint not properly masked. Another issue there. Again, here's another fleck of white paint in the black. I'm assuming, and this looks to be a paint finish. So again, you can see the kind of flecks in the paint, especially when I turn it on the right angle. And again, when I turn it on the side here, you can kind of, besides seeing the mess of my dining room area, you can kind of see how there's a weird bubbling slash edge there going on with the paint. And again, very similar kind of thing going on. Like, it almost looks like as if it was sprayed with like a brown, and the brown got onto the white binding. So even here on the heel of the neck, you can kind of see there's a little specks of paint there as well too. So basically, you know, at the end of the day, again, the little point there of white paint coming through, the body itself seems fine. The neck seems to be installed properly. The frets don't seem to have an issue. The truss rod, I'm not sure of. The inlays they look like they're ebony, but going by the angle on them and everything else, I have to truly believe that that's also a plastic inlay, but at the same time, it's actually well done. So, I mean, if this came out of, say, an Epiphone, if this came out of an Epiphone factory in after hours, I'd say it wasn't too badly done, but still would make me want to actually buy, and I'll say this again, buy an actual Epiphone model of the Gibson type stuff. Three-way toggle actually feels pretty solid. The pots themselves are let me put this back down, and let me switch this back off for a second. Go back to the regular camera. So, So ultimately, at the end of the day, this is going to end up getting probably refinned. Uh, Definitely made less Zach Wild, and hopefully, I don't want to totally take the finish off it too much, but I would like to take it off enough to explore what the actual wood is of the body. The neck is fine. Um, the stinger is definitely coming off. And, you know, the Zach Wild branding definitely needs to be off of this instrument. Like I said, I might look at possibly putting a roller bridge replacement on it. Again, also as I mentioned about removing the pickups and possibly doing legitimate EMGs, or I could look at the set of the Artec 120Ps that are Alnico 5 humbuckers. So in regards to the plastic, it's a cheap plastic. I mean, something you would probably find in a low tier guitar kit. So put that there, and so yeah, this is going to be a project for sure. I definitely would say the biggest advantage of these is, again, if you actually want to modify a Gibson instrument, you're probably better off to actually doing it to one of these or a kit solution that you can buy from another manufacturer, and do that. But I mean, otherwise, I don't encourage anyone to go out and spend, $2,000 to $4,000 on a Gibson Les Paul or a Gibson product, and then turn around and totally modify the crap out of it. You're better off doing it to a cheaper instrument, maybe even an Epiphone. But I will say for sure, these definitely are not, compared to the inspired by Gibson Epiphone ES335 I recently acquired. The quality on this is definitely not up to even the spec of that. So that kind of also gives you a bit of an idea. The back plate on the three-way toggle switch cover is, again, just a cheap kind of chip sounding like plastic. So, again, as many know, your mileage may vary when you buy these, so definitely don't buy these if you're thinking you're going to get like even a quality level close to a Harley Benton. No. I would say the Harley Benton GT90 I had that was originally a gold top that I finished the black top that had the P90s in it. I would say the quality of it is a little bit higher to this, and I mean, you can get that gold top GT Harley Benton LP style guitar for far less than what you'd pay for a Chibson. So anyways, back to the other camera, and I'm going to show you inside the cavity here and what we have in here. So for the most part, the body looks to be made of mahogany, and that looks to be a genuine, like, Switchcraft three-way toggle switch that is in there. And you can see kind of how dirty and roughly cut it is inside there. So there's that. Just to kind of give you an idea. Going by the figure that we'll see in the let me put the cap back on here. Briefly for a second, and let me put it focusing there and on my stomach. Screw these back in place. The screws kind of feel, I wouldn't say they're super cheap, but they're not exactly high-end feeling as well. So in the way in regards to the finish here, I think we're dealing with a poly, or not a poly. I think we're dealing with a urethane finish on this. So we can see here in the cavity, there is a lot of grain, especially around the cutout. As you can see, and it focuses. So there's a lot of graining here. So, and actually we do have a teeny bit of a chip here. So it looks like it's a mahogany or mahogany species of wood. And as for the pots and the caps in here, very, very badly done generic low-end OEM pickup or pots. So again, like I said, I looked in here for, there is a ground wire that is attached to one of the pots. A ton of cabling splattered all over the place. So legitimate ground wire. Does appear to be tight, and there doesn't appear to be any battery wire or hookups for a 9-volt battery. Now the channel there actually isn't too bad. So let's put this, let me turn the camera back off, let me put that around, and we'll do the last thing before I end the video. So put the control cavity back into place. So again, please like, share, subscribe, Leave your comments below on what you think about the knockoff replica guitar. If you think it's if it's an okay thing, if it's something that you would consider taking in on a trade, or dare even spending a few bucks on buying. So far, I would say if I didn't get this on a trade for the other stuff, I probably would not have an overall big interest in this. I see these posted up on our local Kijiji classifieds where people wanting almost upwards to the same pricing as what an actual Gibson, a low-end Gibson, would be, or even the Epiphone. And definitely, even if I think you probably tweaked the hell out of these, I don't think they would be worth the money for anything over what you pay for them through importing them and whatnot. I definitely don't think it's worth it. That said, the nut seems to be a little high on this, and eventually when I check the frets later on, I will take a view of it. But for now, let's actually look in the control cavities and see how they are. Tuners are pretty stiff. So, I mean, there's not much play in them, so I mean, it could be actual legitimate, I don't think it would be a legitimate Grover, but it feels like they're a pretty good knockoff replica of a Grover. Meow, meow. So I would say, going on the basis of this, again, this is mostly as another former YouTuber that I know would say, or at least I think they might have said in the past, these really are project instruments. Nothing more than that can be said about them. These, I don't think you can make them playable. I firmly believe you could, but I think at the end of the day, again, you're better off to pay for a Donner, Harley Benton, numerous other ones out there at around the same price point and get at least a warranted instrument. Where's my string winder? Wish I knew where my string winder was. It would make this so much more easier. But again, I would say that the actual tuners are a little stiff, but they're still very functional, and again, like I said, I don't think they're legitimate tuners, but I would say that they're not bad. Almost have enough slack off to pull the actual stop piece, stop tail bar off. And it's got a bit of weirdness to it. So, you know, hope that you are enjoying this long video with my experience of basically tearing this down and seeing what there is of it. If it's a good thing for a project, a bad thing for a project, a so-so thing. I guess I could have in turn also just did this as well too, thinking about it now. Duh! I'll pull that back up here just to kind of show. So that's a lot of slop there. So definitely cheaper parts there. Then we'll just pull that off to the side. This is rather sloppy as well too. Post slopping around. Those seem to be in place but not sunk very well, so. And maker on the bridge is again nothing. It is no maker on the bottom of the bridge there, and nothing on the bottom of the bridge there. So it is totally generic as possible parts that have been put onto this. We'll leave those there. It seems to be solidly in place. Again, just to show more of the post in the view, and we'll prop that up and actually we'll put that there, and let's pop out the pickups and see what we got. Again, like I said, I'm very curious as to if these are just a rebadged OEM pickup, if they're just an actual Epiphone pickup with a different kind of cover on them to make them look like an EMG. I don't think they're EMG. I don't think they're rebadged EMG HZs. So So let's take our screws out, and we have a totally unlabeled pickup that is just simply basically a oh, I actually just pushed through that finish. So it's not even, it's just a really, really badly done coating on it. So these are definitely knockoff EMG pickup. Let's move this over to the side. Here is inside our cavity. It is not a long scale tendon, it is a short scale tendon, as we see here. The routing looks relatively clean. Might actually have a separate cap, which I'll be removing that to figure that out. So with that, let's put these screws back into place. Very, very carefully, because we will need these pickup mounts again in the distant future. Again, like I was saying about the clear on the guitar body, I'm going to conclude that it's a urethane, because everything I seem to see out of the Asia continent with their instruments, as well as a lot of the Fender products, other than Custom Shop, and as the painter of the Custom Shop himself says, a lot of the stuff out of the Custom Shop is lacquer out of Corona, California there, unless it's a certain special requested finish or whatnot. So there we go. So fake EMG in the neck position. Which makes me to believe that this again will be a fake EMG in the bridge position, just in a separate housing. And again, if you've gotten this far into the video, 49 minutes, you do realize that for sure this, if you're playing this guitar clean, it probably would be fine, but screw there, and again, just a generic pickup, casing enclosed, maybe 2-wire, and in the way of the cavity, it again looks to be probably like a looks to be like it's all some form of mahogany in here. So we will put this back in place. And we will turn this camera back off and move it back out of the way, back up to here. So this will be probably just around an hour long as we put things back into place. So, is this a legitimate Gibson product, or even a legitimate Epiphone product? Plausible Epiphone, I think, but I don't think we will really know anything until we get a little bit more deep down under here, which again is my plan going forward over the next couple months, is to put this probably back into a more restorable and better playing instrument, not to sell as a knockoff, because honestly I really don't think we should be trying to sell these instruments as knockoffs. I think, or at least being unhonest about it. There are some legitimate people that do mark these as knockoffs, or fakes, and I think in that instance, I think it's legitimate and honest for you to do so, not sell it as a fake, or sell it as a fake or replica and not the real genuine product. So I think people that do that at least are good people, not like the ones over the it's been probably about 15 plus years that they've been doing this, the knockoffs. And so there you have it. Zakk Wylde Chibson knockoff. Far away, looks pretty impressive for a knockoff. Looks like a Zakk Wylde, except for the one major fact that it's actually got a rosewood fingerboard, not an actual ebony fingerboard. Otherwise, I think it's a good project guitar. I definitely think it's a mod platform, but I definitely think and encourage anyone that actually wants to buy a legitimate instrument with a valid warranty, go out and buy, like I said, Harley Benton if you are in that budget range. Donner, Firefly, there is got to be at least now a half dozen to a dozen brands out there that do replicas of Gibson models, as well as Fender models, and some other brands as models out there. So to me, these are definitely not worth the money to buy. I would say if you happen to pick up one as a throw in on a trade, or maybe trade for one, I think it's great in that regards. I think it's also great for someone who is like myself, has a little bit of experience. Encourage others to, you know, build or work on instruments. These are great platforms for that. Or someone who's looking to experiment with modifying, you can get one of these in that regard to mess around with and not have to worry about paying thousands of dollars for something with a warranty to screw around with it and screw right up and ruin its value. So, with that said, just under an hour long. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I'll see you around, and keep checking out the channel for future updates on how this is turning out. Oh, and also comment. Do you want this to actually go to legitimate active EMG pickups, or would you like to see and hear the Artec 120p Alnico 5 humbuckers set up in this? Let me know down in the comments, and any other comments on the video. So with that said, take care all, and see you later. Bye for now.